Remember that infamous Louisiana jailbreak about a year ago when 10 inmates slipped out of the detention center while no one noticed for hours?
Yeah, well, the sheriff who ran that jail now finds herself in handcuffs, indicted by a grand jury over her alleged role in that escape.
At exactly 4:52 a.m. in New Orleans, Louisiana, federal agents, including FBI and ICE, joined by DEA teams, moved in on a private mansion hidden behind iron gates and old oak trees. No sirens, no warning. Only black vehicles rolling through the fog before sunrise. The target was Sheriff Evelyn Moreau, New Orleans lawwoman who built her public image on fighting street crime, breaking drug crews, and promising to clean up the city. But investigators believed the real criminal network was not hiding on the streets. It was buried beneath her own mansion. They called it the Black Badge Vault, a secret underground system beneath the estate where cash, gold, narcotics, weapons, and protection records were allegedly locked behind reinforced doors. Within minutes, agents would uncover $31 million in cash, 86 gold bars, 42 pounds of fentanyl, 19 pounds of cocaine, 24 illegal firearms, 39 encrypted phones, and 28 boxes of payment records. But the most disturbing discovery was not the money. It was the names. Names of drug dealers, names of officers, names of businesses, arrest dates, release dates, and payments written beside them. Because this was not just corruption. This was a criminal empire buried beneath a badge. If you want real breakdowns like this, make sure to like and subscribe.
A Louisiana grand jury returned a sweeping 30-count indictment against the now former sheriff. Charges that include malfeasance in office and obstruction of justice, all tied to that brazen jailbreak last year.
The case was known inside the task force as Operation Black Badge. But investigators had another name for what they were seeing: the Black Badge Vault. The method was simple. Drug crews paid for protection. Cash moved into the mansion, gold was stored underground, and weapons that should have stayed inside police custody allegedly ended up in the hands of gang members. Sheriff Evelyn Moreau looked like the woman fighting crime, but investigators believe she was protecting the people creating it. The pattern repeated for years. A few gang members would get arrested, a car would be seized, drugs would be found, weapons would be logged into police evidence. For a few hours, it looked like law enforcement had done its job. Then the private phone would ring. A quiet call from someone connected to the crew, straight to the sheriff. By morning, the arrested men were gone, released, charges weakened, evidence questioned, the arrest treated like a mistake. And then came the second part of the deal. Some weapons seized from the streets were never truly gone. They were moved out of evidence storage. Serial numbers were scratched down. Paperwork was changed. And the same guns that had been taken from gang crews allegedly found their way back into the city, back into the hands of people Moreau claimed she was trying to stop. Before sunset, a black SUV would roll through the side gate of Moreau's mansion. No markings, no headlights, just a locked metal case in the back seat. Inside were envelopes of cash, the sheriff's cut, payment for making charges disappear, payment for keeping the streets under control. That was how the Black Badge Vault worked. The streets created the money, the gangs delivered the cash, the evidence room fed the weapons, and the badge kept the machine alive. At exactly 5:04 a.m., the command was given. This time, federal teams did not waste time at the outer gate. They went straight for the house. While one team quietly locked down the perimeter and cut off the driveway, the main entry teams moved directly onto the mansion grounds and closed in on the residence itself. Within seconds, the front entrance and the side door were hit at the same time. The house jolted awake. Lights came on. A private alarm flashed. But the federal response was faster. Agents surged through the main entrance. Another team came in from the side. The hallway was sealed. The rear interior corridor was blocked. Two of Moreau's loyal guards tried to move toward the garage wing. Another rushed toward the central hall. They were disarmed and forced down almost immediately. Inside, staff were pulled away from phones. Computers were preserved. House employees were separated. The first floor was brought under control within minutes. Then Sheriff Evelyn Moreau appeared near the staircase. She tried to turn toward her private study. She never made it. Agents cut her off in the hallway, took the phone, secured the keys, and restrained her before she could reach the office. No long standoff, no final speech, no last-minute command. The woman who had ruled the city from behind a badge was now standing inside her own home, surrounded by federal agents. Then investigators moved deeper, past the marble entryway, past the trophy room. They went straight to the room marked in the warrant, the sheriff's private office. Inside, agents found the first layer, $4.6 million in cash hidden inside locked drawers, 11 encrypted phones behind a false cabinet panel, 9 handguns wrapped in cloth, 14 payment ledgers filled with dates, initials, street names, and amounts. But the real breakthrough came beneath the floor. A hidden panel under a heavy rug opened into a narrow stairwell. The air below was cold, metallic, stale. At the bottom, agents found the Black Badge Vault, a reinforced underground chamber built beneath the mansion. Inside were steel shelves, locked cabinets, gold bars sealed in cases, plastic-wrapped bundles, and rows of weapons stacked beside narcotics. Investigators noticed a detail that changed the whole case. Some of the guns still carried police evidence markings. Others had scratched-down serial numbers. Several matched weapons once seized from gang crews and logged into police custody. The evidence room had not only been leaking records, it had allegedly been feeding the streets. By the time the chamber was cleared, investigators had counted $31 million in cash, 86 gold bars, 42 pounds of fentanyl, 19 pounds of cocaine, 24 illegal firearms, 39 encrypted phones, and 28 boxes of payment records. But the most disturbing evidence was not the money. It was the ledger wall. Names of crews, names of businesses, names of officers, dates of arrests, dates of releases, weapon serial numbers, evidence room codes, and payments written beside them. The city thought Moreau was fighting crime. But inside her own home and beneath her own floor, investigators found the machine that may have been protecting it. Then came the line no one in that room forgot. This was not just a hidden vault. It was a criminal courthouse buried beneath a badge. The first emotional shock came from the city map. Because the Black Badge Vault was not the end of the case, it was the beginning. Inside the vault, investigators found names, street corners, delivery routes, and payment notes tied to one crew more than any other: the Bayou Sinaloa cell, a Sinaloa-linked drug branch operating inside New Orleans, led by Dante St. Rivas, one of Sheriff Evelyn Moreau's closest protected operators. On the street, people knew Rivas as a supplier. But inside Moreau's records, investigators believed he was something more dangerous: a protected bridge between cartel money and city streets. By 7:18 a.m., the second wave began. Federal teams moved on 5 locations tied to the Bayou Sinaloa cell: a warehouse near the river, a tire shop used as a front, 2 stash houses hidden inside quiet neighborhoods, and a back office behind a closed nightclub. The raids moved fast. Doors were breached. Side streets were blocked. Suspects were pulled from bedrooms, back rooms, and parked vehicles before they could run. At the River Warehouse, investigators found 22 pounds of methamphetamine, 14 rifles, 8 handguns, and $780,000 in cash sealed inside plastic tubs. At the tire shop, they recovered 12 burner phones, 6 stolen vehicles, and a delivery notebook listing routes through New Orleans. But the most damaging discovery came from the closed nightclub. Inside a locked back room, agents found a second ledger. Not as large as the wall beneath Moreau's mansion, but just as dangerous. It listed arrest dates, release dates, badge numbers, weapon serial numbers, and payments connected to the Bayou Sinaloa cell. That was when investigators began to understand the full machine. The cartel branch moved the drugs. The sheriff protected the route. The evidence room supplied weapons, and the streets paid the price. By late morning, 18 gang members and associates had been taken into custody. 3 more were still being hunted. Several businesses were sealed, and the network Moreau had allegedly protected was being torn apart from the outside. For years, residents had asked the same questions. Why did the same dealers come back? Why did arrests vanish? Why did certain corners never stay clean? Why did one crew always seem to know when law enforcement was coming? Now investigators believed they had the answer. The Bayou Sinaloa cell did not survive because it was invisible. It survived because someone wearing a badge may have been clearing the road ahead. And for New Orleans, that was the deepest betrayal. The woman who promised to clean up the streets may have been protecting the people poisoning them. By the end of the day, New Orleans looked different. The mansion was sealed. The hidden chamber was empty. The warehouse near the river was locked down. The tire shop was closed. The nightclub office was surrounded by federal tape. And the Bayou Sinaloa cell, the crew that had once moved through the city like it owned the streets, was finally bleeding from both ends. One side had been hit inside the mansion. The other side had been hit across the city. Cash was gone. Weapons were gone. Phones were gone. Ledgers were gone. And the woman who once stood in front of cameras promising to clean up New Orleans was now at the center of the machine investigators had torn open. But the worst part was not the money. It was not the gold. It was not even the drugs. The worst part was what the records showed. Arrests that vanished. Weapons that returned to the streets. Gang members who walked free. Payments tied to names, badge numbers, and release dates. For years, people in those neighborhoods thought the city had failed because the gangs were too powerful. But investigators now believed the truth was darker. The gangs may not have been stronger than the law. They may have been protected by someone inside it. That is what made the Black Badge Vault so dangerous. It was not just a room under a mansion. It was proof of what happens when power stops protecting people and starts protecting criminals. A badge can stop a crime, but in the wrong hands, it can also hide one. And sometimes, the most dangerous person in a city is not the dealer on the corner. It is the woman behind the badge, who decides which criminals are allowed to stay there.